Well, welcome, everybody. I just want to take a couple minutes before you guys get to ask your questions, tell you a little bit about what's going on in the city today. We are hosting a climate leadership training program that is going on at the Lake Pavilion from 9 to 4. And it's given by the Clio Institute. Caroline Lewis is the director of that. And have about 80 citizens signed up to be a part of this. They're going to talk about sea level rise, they're going to talk about climate change and some solutions and some of the current ideas and trends that are going on. And come on in. Come on in.
Are you serious?
That's what I said.
You're kidding.
Is this a joke? That's what I said.
Another Channel 12 person.
Why do we have 4 people here? Please continue.
I think you guys must be way overstaffed.
We got City Hall covered today. Anything happens.
Yeah, overstaffed.
All right, so as I said, we're having this climate leadership program at the Lake Pavilion. We're very excited about it, and particularly excited about the fact that 80 citizens signed up. It really shows the interest that people have in this whole question of climate change. Behind me, we have some really cool pictures, and Penny Redford is here. She's our Director of Sustainability. You want to tell them about what these pictures represent?
Love to. Well,
Come on over here so you can talk into the mics.
the photos are part of a sea level rise exhibit that is on loan from FAU. And the examples here, if you were to read the fine print, is saying the life expectancy of these individuals, however old, what year they would be, that's the level of water, the difference that it would be in different parts of the country. We have this fabulous program that the mayor mentioned going on at the Lake Pavilion, along with the rest of that exhibit is down there, and I'd love to have you all come.
So if you have a chance, this is actually Manhattan. This is Richmond, Virginia, and this is New Orleans.
So this one is in 2078, 35 inches, the water will be 35 inches higher in Richmond in that year.
So it's something we all need to be concerned about, and we're certainly looking at everything we can do here in the city in terms of addressing some of our building codes and making sure that we keep in mind we need to think about what it's going to look like in 50 years.
You know what it look like in 50 years?
We'd love to know, but there is a projected sea level rise that the compact of 4 counties, Monroe, Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach, are looking at 9 to 27 inches by that year.
I'm sorry, by what year would that be?
2060.
If it went up between 9 and 27 inches?
But
What would that
it's
do to the
just
city?
it's just a projection. I mean, there's no way to show we don't know what's really going to happen, but whatever it is that we do now is going to be helping and reducing that potential. And that's what this program is about, learning how to talk about it, what the impacts are, and learning the science of it.
Good. Well, thank you, Penny. So if you get a chance to go down the Lake Pavilion, I encourage you to do that, and it'd be really fun to talk to some of the participants and find out what their reasons are for being a part of that.
Well, Mayor, with this being held in the city, now that it's on your radar, what are some of the precautions that we want to take in the future? What are some of the things that make you scratch your head and say, okay, this is something we need to address?
Well, definitely our building codes. We have to look at what it's going to mean if you're building in particular zones. How can we address that through our building codes? So that's something that we've been talking about and discussing. Penny, you want to add some more?
Well, things that the city can do is also look at our operations and be leaders. We already are looking at our fleet. We have 4 electric vehicles. My office is doing a evaluation of fleet to see what other alternative energies we might be able to use. We have upgraded our street lights to LED. As a matter of fact, the FPL conversion that we did of almost 1,400 lights is going to be completed by Earth Day. And that's reducing our energy use. We're looking at water conservation, all of the conservation of natural resources, and then putting that into city operations and policies and practices for not just city government, but for the community as well. Those are the things that we're looking at now.
Are there any vulnerable spots in West Palm Beach that would be more susceptible to water level rise?
Well, we are certainly better off than our neighbors to the south. If you look at Miami, they're already experiencing routine flooding of streets and high tides. For us, because the topography is higher, we're doing better. But certainly we need to look at our shorelines, and we're looking at stormwater and things that we can do to make sure that the water isn't coming up in areas that you wouldn't expect it.
There's a website, and I really can't give you the website, but if you Google, I'm sure you'll find it. But there's a website where you can go in and actually say where you are, and then they'll and look at what the projections are for that area. So it's sort of cool to play around with it and look at what's happening there.
Mayor, quick question, talking about water levels, things like that. There's going to be new forecasting for hurricanes now. How is that going to affect, since they're looking at storm surge versus wind, in the way you get the word out to residents and things of that nature?
Well, the storm surge issue is really something that we need to consider. It's like what we learned from the storm of '28, that storm surge could be more damaging than wind. We have a comprehensive emergency management plan that we just revised, and everybody has this plan. Everybody knows what their job's supposed to be, and we'll be carrying that through. So we've done a lot of emergency preparedness to deal with a storm and storm surge.
But now how does that affect how you get the word out versus wind? Because there was always storm surge with the wind, but everyone was always, we're projecting this type, 100-mile-an-hour winds.
Right.
So with it coming now, they're projecting it's going to be, this many feet of floodwaters. Do you think that's going to help get people to know, oh, okay, I need to get out of this area?
Yeah, I think we're going to have to be really clear about what the vulnerabilities are, and especially where people are located. We need to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to have the storm drains open and clear, and so that we're not getting we surge. Sometimes we get that now even with a little storm. So we've had our utilities people, when we see a storm coming, our utilities people go out before the storm and clean out all of the storm drains and make sure that is in the best shape possible.
With the new forecasting method, is it fair to say it's better for residents and also people who run the city, because now you'll be targeting certain areas and people will know why?
Yeah, and we have we have an emergency manager who is tied into the hurricane center and all of the weather centers, and he gets regular briefings and alerts, and those come out to us immediately. So we're very tied into all of the reporting groups. Yeah.
Mayor, with a few legislative days left, can you give us an update on the baseball stadium, 45th Military, or other locations in West Palm Beach?
Well, we are continuing to discuss the possibility of a baseball stadium at the Haverhill site. Haverhill site has about 160 acres and is large enough to accommodate a two-team stadium, which is what we're looking at. We are in discussion with the county, and actually we have a meeting with them next week to talk about our site and move forward. So we have had several meetings in the last couple of weeks, and we're continuing to move forward.
I know the baseball owners had wanted to move forward in this legislative year before they go into break. So, I mean, at this point, are we still, I hate to use this term, but are we still in the early innings, or are we coming close to?
You didn't hate to use that.
But are we somewhere close to at least West Palm Beach being the site, or is it still up in the air?
I think West Palm Beach is one of their favorite sites. And I think they're serious about the West Palm Beach site. Whether
Are you talking commissioners or those owners?
the owners. Whether it will get to the state legislature this year, I would predict probably not. But we're going to move forward as quickly as we can.
And last question on this issue, the Tampa Bay Times had an article about 3 weeks ago talking about the cost-benefit analysis. I know one of the arguments you guys make for another baseball stadium is tourism dollars and the tournaments that come into play. But in their analysis, they actually show that sometimes when these arguments are made beforehand, afterwards, that money never comes to fruition. But yet you're asking taxpayers to pay for that upfront and to trust you that that money will be there in 5, 6, 10 years.
Well, from the city's point of view, we'll be in negotiations for the use of land. We're not going to be giving anything away. The tax dollars come from the county level. That doesn't, and of course, our citizens pay those taxes, so that doesn't make a whole lot of difference. And one of the things that the teams are currently working on is a full economic study. So we need to better understand what that means. Now, we're talking about this stadium also being used during times when the teams aren't here as an amenity to the areas in the west that surround it. So there will be an opportunity for people to use the stadium, the practice fields, the green spaces for soccer fields or lacrosse fields. So we're not only looking at it as just a stadium, but we're also looking at it as an amenity for the communities in the western part of our city. We're also looking at, and we've talked with them about how can we help some of the neighboring communities rehabilitate, rejuvenate, redevelop, whatever the right word is. What kind of outreach can they do to the neighboring communities? So I think we're talking to them about bringing benefits to those areas. The other thing is the proposed plan that I saw, and it's very early, so none of this is set in stone in any way. But it had a very user-friendly design where people could walk onto the properties for free, watch practice going on, watch training going on. The only time you would actually pay is if you were going to the stadium for a game. So there's lots of things that were built in around the stadium that folks could just walk into the area and watch and be a part of. So they're being very sensitive to bringing the community into this space and to also reaching out to the communities.
But again, it's only 30 days out of the year, right, where that would happen. The tax dollars, what the article was saying is the tax dollars are outweighed by the fact that there's money lost for the rest.
Well, but what I'm saying to you is that we're looking at ways to use it for the other 336 days a year. Okay?
Mayor, I wanted to ask you about red light cameras in your city. Are you a proponent of the cameras?
I am a proponent, and you know what? I get really angry when I hear people say that cities are making money on this. We do not make money on this. As a matter of fact, it costs us money. And if we didn't feel that this was important to safety, we wouldn't do it because it's not financially. We don't make money on this, and so yeah, I like red light cameras. I get not a lot, but I get emails periodically from people who've gotten caught, who say, I don't think it's fair that I have to pay this fine, and then I write them back and I say, did you go through the red light? And they said, well, yeah, I did. Well, then you have to pay a fine and stop going through red lights.
Numbers, I guess, released from you guys show in fiscal year 2013, the city lost. It actually cost you more than $20,000 to operate these.
That's what I was saying, and I think the Palm Beach Post writes every time cities are getting a windfall, and we don't.
Numbers also released from the latest report I saw from the police department show accidents actually increasing at some of these intersections where these cameras exist. So the argument is that it makes it safer, but then some data shows otherwise. What would you tell taxpayers, or what would you tell people when they pay these tickets, that it seems like at the end of the day, the only people really making money is maybe the company that provides this or the state?
And the state. Don't forget the state. Well, I don't know about the safety numbers, and I know that's come up. We'll continue to look at it, and if it doesn't show increased safety, I think it will, but if it doesn't, then we'll have to reevaluate it. Nothing's ever in perpetuity. We have to look at the programs we have and decide whether they're working, and if they aren't working, we need to do something different.
Is this program meant to operate in the red?
No, we don't want it to operate in the red, but we have to make sure that we're reviewing the videos and everybody gets the fairest shot possible.
I want to talk about DeWitt McDonald, who's the former West Palm Beach police officer who was.
I'm glad you said former.
Former police officer. The release sent out from your office basically said that you all were aware of what was going on and you brought this to investigators. How did you find out about this, and what was your reaction as mayor?
I can't answer the first part of that. I don't know how the police found out, but they did, and we did bring it to the FBI. My reaction then and my reaction now is that it's intolerable. This cannot be happening in our police department, and when we realized what was going on, the gentleman was fired, and it won't be tolerated.
He was part of another incident, I think it was 2006, there were a dozen or so officers who were suspended. Should there be something looked at with the police department in terms of steroid use? Is it a problem?
Well, it's something that we're always attending to. I know that the chief, the former chief and the current chief have been very vigilant about making sure that that's not happening. Can I assure you that nobody else is using steroids? I can't. But if we find out that's happening, they will no longer be employed.
The lawsuit or the federal documents reference that he was dealing to other West Palm Beach police officers. Any reprimand that you know of for the people that, and they weren't named specifically in the documents, but do you know if there's any repercussions for them?
All of that continues to be investigated, so I can't really answer that. What else?
Grandview Heights was the latest neighborhood to express concerns about the all over Florida. A lot of neighborhoods up in Northtown have also expressed concerns about
Right.
it. How much of an impact do you think that these concerns from neighborhoods are going to have on the program, on it going forward?
How much impact?
Their opposition. will-
Okay. I think that it will have a huge impact on making sure that we get quiet zones. We're not going to move forward without quiet zones. And, we're fortunate because we are going to have a station here in our downtown, and we're going to reap the benefits of having a station. But that doesn't overshadow the need to make sure that we have quiet zones. I think the Grandview Heights letter read, if you read it, it said they were in favor of all aboard Florida, but making sure that it's done right. And we're continuing to fight that battle. One of our commissioners was up in Washington on Thursday to talk to the Department of Transportation. I have been to Washington to talk to people. We're in the process of writing a Tiger grant that will hopefully, if we win the award, will help us to pay for quiet zones. The MPO has put up $6.6 million as a matching grant, and we've heard that the state is in the process of setting aside $10 million as a matching grant. So,
What's your sense of how the communities overall feel about the all aboard Florida program? Is the fear of the noise enough to set the program back?
I think the communities outside of West Palm Beach, north of the city, all they're getting is the bad part of it. So they're getting the noise and the vibration and everything. I think the people who live here in West Palm Beach realize that having a station is an economic driver and see the benefits to that. But that doesn't mean that they're going to settle for less. And we're not going to settle for less. We know the importance of quiet zones, and we're going to continue to fight for those.
That's good, thank you.
You had mentioned, I don't know if it's here's some Palm Beach outlets and a possible trolley stop there, also maybe Northwood. How close are we to seeing that? I think I read in the Post, actually, that it might be a $50,000 bill for that. Is the city willing to pick that up? Where do we stand with the trolley?
The DDA is investigating that, the Downtown Development Authority, and they are proposing a pilot of 3 months, and that 3-month pilot, I think, will cost about $50,000. And that will be paid for at this point by the DDA. And at some point in the future, if this works, I think we'll be looking at like a 3-way split or something, with CRA, the DDA, and the city, moving that forward together.
You want to see a trolley go to the pump
I do.
stations?
I do. I think it will really, it'll bring, people will be able to come here if they want, enjoy Clematis Street, enjoy City Place. Hopefully City Place will put some money into it as well. And I think it'll connect these centers that are, will be good to have connected.
If you look at the crystal ball, do you see this toward the end of the year? When would you see a possible, maybe even this pilot program starting?
Do we know when the pilot, do you know? I thought they were thinking about maybe starting it in the fall, but I don't know that for sure.
Are you surprised at the traffic and at the volume that has gone on at the outlet mall?
I'm not the least bit surprised. Being an outlet shopper myself, no, I'm not the least bit surprised. I think it's it's beautiful the way they've designed it and done it. And it's easy to get there, it's easy to shop there, and I think it's a big success.
From other people, other political people about the outlet mall, the impact that they think it's going to have. What are other folks saying about it?
I really haven't heard, except for in passing, when people have said, some of our legislative delegation has said, oh, wow, this is a great thing for West Palm Beach. It's great that you were able to move this forward. And, we really did it quickly. They came in, they started demolition in March of 2013, took 3 months to demolish it, and then 8 months to build the mall, and it was opened in February 2014. So we were able to permit it and move all of the permits forward and all of the inspections, and it worked really well. What else?
I want to actually see if I can shift gears back to what we were initially talking about, just for a couple of questions.
Sure.
What are some of the initiatives that the city of West Palm Beach has taken steps in going green? I know that we have the electric car stations
Yeah.
and the garages, and anything else, or can you talk about that and whatever else?
Well, we have 6 electric, 7 or 6? 5. We have 6.
Total, we've got 7 car charging.
Yeah, we have 7 car charging facilities. 5 are open to the public in the Clematis Street garage. And actually, I got an email a while ago from a gentleman who lives in Wellington, I think it was, with an electric car, who said he now comes to West Palm Beach to charge his cars. And when he's doing that, he walks Clematis and he has dinner in one of our restaurants, which he would never have done before. So it's actually bringing people into our downtown, which is pretty cool. We have changed all of the lights that we own, street lights, into LED, to LED lights, and we're in the process of working with FPL for them to do all the ones that they own in our city. So soon, all of the street lights in our city will be LED lights. We have signed on to a 2020 pledge where we will reduce our carbon footprint by 20% by 2020. We have solar panels in our waterfront park that are part of a project that we did with FPL. We have,
Where are those solar panels?
the trellises on the south side of the park, just by the pavilion. If you look up, the solar panels are on the trellises, so they provide shade, and you don't see them, but they're right there on the trellises. We are continuing to work on green building code and moving that forward, requirements that will reflect conservation as well as green building standards. What else? What have I forgotten?
As part of the the street light upgrade. We also did upgrades to city buildings. We had a $6.8 million energy performance contract. And those energy savings is how we are paying for that, those retrofits. And it's really important to consider the outreach that we do with the community, because we are being a leader, but it is with the, with the thought that everyone in the community needs to address these things. We did our greenhouse gas emissions baseline in 2008. We're in the process of upgrading that, so we're doing a greenhouse gas inventory. What we found was that city operations was only 3% of the greenhouse gas emissions for the community, for our city as a whole. So we want to change that 3% and reduce it, but we need to do this outreach like the training that we're doing today and other programs to work with the community to make improvements there too.
And I also want to remind everybody of the Mayor's Water Challenge. So we're asking people to sign on and pledge to conserve water. They can just go to our webpage, and there'll be a link on our webpage where you can sign up. It's the month of April. Last year we won. We want to win again this year, so we're encouraging everybody out there in West Palm Beach to sign on to the Mayor's Water Challenge.
Anything else? As far as getting the community involved, you're talking about how this is a community effort. What are some of the more important things that people in the community can do besides, the obvious would be conserving water? Are there any other things that, we're telling the community that, we signed on to this 2020 carbon footprint deal, so how can it be achieved, I guess?
Well, I think it's really important to stay educated. There are changes that are happening. We have so many scientists throughout the world addressing this. There was just a report that came out, a 5-year report, the IPCC, which is an international panel on climate change. Please, if people could go to that website and read the results, they are saying that yes, things are changing, but we can make a difference. So being able to stay educated and talking to your family and your friends to make a difference.
Well, in our house, we changed out our lights to LED lights. We recycle everything. We try and conserve water. So there are things you can do that are pretty easy, but are part of your everyday household operations.
When you see the lights that were changed to LEDs, by the way, in the city, are we talking about traffic lights? We're talking, what are we
Street
talking about?
lights.
So street lights, okay.
Street lights.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.